Fed up with the everyday grind? Tired out from the summer heat? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape. Escape, designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
You are deep in a fabulous mountain cavern, surrounded by a horde of menacing natives from a lost civilization, held at the mercy of the most beautiful woman in the world, the terrible queen called She.
Tonight, we escape to uncharted Africa and to an incredible adventure, as H. Rider Haggard described it in his fantastic story, She.
In those days, I was a professor of archaeology at Oxford. And though this may account for my being able to understand some of those strange events which occurred later, it was in no respect the reason for my becoming involved in them. No, the real reason was unbelievably simple. I walked through the caves of the dead in the terrible and ancient city of Kor, crossed the awful abyss and looked upon the flame of life, only because I was one of the ugliest men in England. Because of my appearance, I had made few acquaintances and only two close friends. Roger Vincey first, and following his death, his son, Leo, whom he left behind. And it was that friendship which brought Leo Vincey to my chambers off the quadrangle, late in the evening of the day he became 25 years old.
Today was the first I knew of it, Holly, when the attorneys called me in.
Yes?
They said Father instructed them the week before he died to give me the letter and this little bronze chest on my 25th birthday.
It's strange. I mean, the chest. Designs on the lid show Egyptian influence. It must be very old.
Well, according to Father's letter, it contains something over 2,000 years old.
Really?
Must have considered it rather important. He's closed the cover with a lead seal.
Yes, so I see.
At any rate, Holly, the letter doesn't tell us much. Suppose we see what's inside.
All right. I have a geology hammer here somewhere, my boy. Here we are. And a chisel. Now, you hold it in place on the table here.
Uh-huh. Go ahead. There, it's pulling loose.
Yes. I did it.
Well, here goes. Oh, what the devil is that?
Why, it's a clay tile, an old Egyptian writing tablet. Yes, it's the kind used about the time of Nectanebes, around 340 B.C.
But the writing on it, it's not Egyptian. It's Greek.
Yes, and parts of it are broken away. Oh, it'll take some time to translate this, Leo.
Well, Father apparently did it, Holly, according to this paper. Listen, here's his translation.
Read it.
I, Amenartes, wife of Callicrates, say this to you, my son. Forced to escape the wrath of the great Nectanebes,
I thought so.
your father and I fled southward across the waters and wandered for twice 12 moons upon the coast of Libya.
That's the old name for Africa, you know.
That faces the rising sun. And there by the mouth of a river where stands facing the sea a great mountain carved like the head of an Ethiopian.
What is it?
Nothing, Holly. Huh? It goes on. Following the river, we soon fell among... There's a row of asterisks
That
here.
must be one of the places where the tile's broken. Go on, my boy.
To a hollow mountain where a great city once stood, and to the terrible caves of which no man hath seen the end, and to she who must be obeyed.
She who must be... What's wrong, Leo?
I don't know, Holly. There's something familiar about that name, but I've never heard it before. Strange.
Well, come on. Get on with it.
She who must be obeyed, who did lead us by awesome ways to the place where the great pit is, whose voice is like thunder. And she did show to us the rolling pillar of life, and did stand in the flames. And she spake unto and there's a large fragment missing here.
Oh, frequency.
There isn't very much more. Picks up, carried far away on the ships where I gave birth to thee, and came hither to Athens at last. So I say to thee, by these things which I have told, seek out this place, nor stay thy will until thou hast the secret of life for thyself. Sit then on the throne with the Pharaoh. And that's all, Holly. Now, what's it all about?
Leo, if your father knew, he kept it to himself. I don't know. It's all very strange.
Yes. Oh. Well, we'll know as soon as we reach the place.
I was hoping you'd say that. If you decided not to, I think I should have had a try at finding it alone.
I can't do anything else, Holly. It's more than curiosity. It's almost a compulsion. There's such a familiar feeling about all this. Even that mountain, Holly, shaped like the head of an Ethiopian.
Yes, what about it?
Well, off and on, ever since I was a kid, I've dreamed about a mountain like that. But why, Holly? Why should I?
That was the beginning. And some 3 months later, we drifted down the east coast of Africa, south of Zanzibar, searching the miles of jungle shores for the mountain carved like a head. There were 4 of us in the tiny sailing dhow. Leo and I, of course, along with Abdullah, the Arab boatman we'd hired in Aden, and finally a solid North countryman named Job, my servant for many years. We'd caught no sight of our landmarkers yet, but a native had told us of seeing it once years before, somewhere to the south. So our hopes held high, and we were confident luck was with us. And so it was, until one evening, just at dark.
That's a pretty stiff wind, Holly.
Yes.
You think Abdullah knows what he's doing?
We're rather close inshore, all right, Leo. I doubt if there's any danger, unless a squall hits.
Hey, by gauzy, we're strangers here in an heathen land and all. Anything could happen.
It could, Joe, but let's assume that it won't, huh? How's the dory making out back there?
Oh, trailing along all right behind us. Be in a bad spot if we lost it with our guns, food, equipment, and everything in it.
Yes, I know, Joe. Leo, perhaps we shouldn't have packed the stuff that way, Leo. I should have kept it on board with us.
No, Holly. We want to be ready to shove off up the river as soon as we sight that head. It would be a tough job loading that boat at sea.
We may not have had to, Leo. We've certainly found no reason to so far.
But we will. I've dreamed of it. Huh?
Hey, Master Ollie, look!
It's the wind, Holly.
driving the water ahead of it. Abdullah! Lay onto that tiller and head her into it.
I'll give him a hand, Holly. Cut
Right.
the sail loose.
Yeah, we've not a chance, sir.
Hold onto the mast, Joe.
We shall all be
Watch
drowned.
out, Leo! The great wave plunged over us, tore away the dory, swamped the dhow beneath our feet, and hurled us headlong into the foaming sea. Half smothered, fighting to stay afloat, borne shoreward by the drive of the tempest, we were tossed at last, one by one, up onto the rain-swept beach. The calm dawn found us huddled together on the sand at the fringe of a dark and forbidding jungle. At the south lay the mouth of a small river, and to the north, the beach ended at the slope of a rocky headland. Leo and Job went to look at the wrecked dory, lying at the water's edge 100 yards away, while I searched the shoreline for some sign of our boatman. I found none, and we never saw Abdullah again.
Oh, Holly. Find any trace of him, Holly?
No sign, Leo. The thread is gone for good.
Oh, it's too bad.
What shapes the dory in, Job?
Wrecked. Not a chance of fixing it. But the equipment seems to be all right, sir.
Oh, good. It's all there, is
Yes,
it?
most of it. The lashings held and the waterproof cases stood up very well. Only trouble is we're afoot.
Yes, we're going to have a lot of trouble following the coastline.
We won't follow any coastline, Holly.
What?
We're going up that river.
We-
Take a look at that headland there to the north. It
Yeah?
shows up better from the wreck, Holly, but with the sun coming up now, you can see it from here, too.
Why, gum, it's shaped like a human head.
That's it! That's the landmark!
Right, Holly. And that's the river Callicrates followed with his wife, the same one we're going to follow.
Oh, but Leo, with the boat gone, we shall have to break trail through that jungle and follow that riverbank.
Yes, we'd better get started.
Look, gentlemen, why can't we just stay here and try to signal some ship?
No, there's not much chance of it, Job. They stay pretty clear of this coast. But anyway, this is what we've been looking for.
I don't really know what we are looking for, Leo. It's been more than 2,000 years since Callicrates went up that river. And things must have changed a great deal by now.
Holly, that carved head up there in the mountain. It looks exactly the way it always did when I dreamed about it.
It's incredible.
I've got a
Gentlemen,
strange feeling that whatever Callicrates and his wife found back there in the jungle will still be waiting there today.
For 5 hot, steaming days, we pushed inland through the jungle, following the banks of the muddy river. Mile by mile, the creeping undergrowth became more dense. The river shallowed and became sluggish, and the swamplands began to stretch out from the low banks. Foul pools and stagnant lagoons full of soft black mud, covered over with a green scum, made every step a hazard. Crocodiles slid away at our approach, and bright-colored snakes glided out from underfoot. Mile after mile, we forced our way through those evil swamps, each mile more difficult. And finally came the morning of the 6th day.
Oh, I don't know, Holly. If it gets any worse, we'll never make it.
Excuse me butting in, gentlemen, but
Yes, Joe.
I say we should turn back.
Oh, no, Joe. We've spent 5 days getting this far. It'd be a shame to waste it.
It's just the way I feel. We'll keep on as long as we can. Oh,
What, Leo?
oh I know, I stumbled over something in the mire. Here, take a look at it.
It's a rock. Look.
Yes. It's a square stone. It's been hand-cut. There's another. It's a section of an old wall of some
Sort
sort.
of a dike. That's it, Holly. A long time ago, the river was held between stone dikes along here. Like a sort of canal.
Possible that might account for the swampland. The dikes gradually fell to pieces, and the river spread out through the jungle.
Of course. And, Holly, there could be only one reason for building them. So that boats or barges could come in from the ocean to some kind of a city.
City, gentlemen, why don't we turn back while we
That's
can?
it. City. It had to be a long time ago. Centuries ago, Leo.
Could still be there, Holly. This place has never been explored. Nobody would ever try to come through these swamps.
It may include us if it keeps... Job, what's the matter with you?
He must be... Oh.
Look! Natives.
Ah,
Where the devil did they come from?
I don't know. Ooh, strange-looking brutes. Look at those clothes they're wearing.
Yes. I've never seen any quite like them. Except in...
Hey, Gop. Baka ni Biko?
Do you recognize their dialect?
No, it's a little like Arabic. I might try that.
Yeah.
Sabul al-Hayya. Kaifa?
Hey, Gop. Ni Bokon ni Vek.
I've never heard anything like it before.
They seem to want us to come along with them, Holly.
Yes.
You think we'd better chance it?
Well, they outnumber us 30 to 1, Leo.
Yes, and they're all carrying those stabbing knives. Well,
Baka Zedango.
hang on to your guns. They don't seem to know what they're for. Let's go.
Our strange escort moved rapidly ahead, twisting and turning as they followed some well-remembered trail of their own. We rested during the night on a hummock of dry ground, and then struck out again at dawn. It was late afternoon when we left the swamp and climbed up a long slope to the foot of the rock-walled mountain. Reaching its base, we entered the mouth of a great cavern, and a short way inside we led into a small side chamber, carved from the living rock and lighted by a reed wick floating in a jug of oil. And then the strange natives went away and left us, and we sat about on the floor, trying to plan some course of action.
Oh, dear. Ah. How long do you suppose we've been here, Holly?
Close to 2 hours, I'd say.
Yeah.
Must be dark outside by now.
Holly, do you have any idea what race they belong to? They're not like any other natives in this part of Africa.
Oh, I've seen people much like them in some of the villages in southern Egypt, Leo. But I don't know any more about it than that.
They wear those odd tunics, too. Cotton or linen, I suppose. Those bronze headbands. Must have been out of contact with the rest of the world for centuries, Holly.
Heathens, that's what they are, and up to no good so far as we're concerned. That's
You
what
may
I
be right,
think.
Joe, but I still want to find out about the other things Eminartes wrote on the tile. The city of Kor and the pillar of fire, and she who must be obeyed.
We found the caves, at least. Though I can't see anything so terrible about them.
Perhaps we haven't seen everything the cave...
Huh? Oh, well.
Ni Bohop.
Oh,
Zeni Bahop.
our little chum.
Zeni Bahop.
He seems to want us to follow him.
Hmm.
Well, hang on to your guns.
Right you are. Stick close together. Don't let them separate us. All right, Job? Come, let's go.
Our strange guide led us along the twisting, branching passageways, lighting our way with a flaming torch that threw weird shadows on the walls of solid rock. Now and then we passed side chambers lined with long rows of stone slabs. And then I saw that each slab held the sheeted figure of a human body. And I realized these caves were one vast crypt filled with the mummified bodies of some vanished race. Gradually, as we moved on, a most remarkable sound began to grow louder, made up of the guttural voices of a crowd, the throbbing of drums, and the moan of some strange musical instrument. Suddenly, the narrow passage opened out into a great hollowed cavern where natives danced and postured in the eerie glare from 100 huge torches placed about the walls. I stared in amazement, for the torches were flaming mummies tied upright to the posts, and the guide had lighted our way through the passages with a human arm.
Nebok, Borg Jane.
I think he means for us to walk toward that platform in the center.
Yes, there's a pit of coals burning in the top of it.
Nebok.
Yes, come on. Watch it, Holly. I don't like the looks of this.
All right, keep your gun handy, Leo. Stay right with us, Joe.
Yes, they look anything but friendly.
If anything starts, try to get on the platform. They've got no weapons except those stabbing knives, remember.
Well, here we are. Now what?
The barn Nivet.
It's quite some fire they've got built up. I can't understand what they need to do.
Joe! Joe! Look out, Holly! They've killed Joe!
The devil's back against the wall, Leo!
Pick up. Watch it, here they come! All right, you!
Stab Job without a chance there.
What are you left? Holly, let's try for the free...
What the deuce is this?
Old man in a long white robe.
Hold your gun ready, Leo. We'll see what happens.
Well, they're scared to death of him, whoever he is.
Wait, he's coming our way.
I presume you speak English, gentlemen?
Yes, but you do.
Occasionally, natives from the south have come through the swamps, and we have captured them. I have learned many of the languages of the outside world. I am Bilali.
Leo Vinci, and this is Mr. Holly.
I am most sorrowful for the death of your companion.
Oh, yes, poor Joe.
My children had no excuse. They know the law. From now on, you will be allowed to complete freedom. No white man is ever to be eaten.
Eaten?
That is what would have been done to you. But rest assured, her law is just, and their punishment will be swift.
Whose law?
That of she who must be obeyed.
Holly! This is it, Holly. We're still on the right trail.
She has demanded your presence. I have come to take you to the place where she is.
Tell me, Bilali, who or what is this she who must be obeyed? A goddess? A queen? A white woman?
I could not say, my son. I have never seen she. Come along.
Again through those tortuous passages, two of us now, with kindly old Bilali leading the way, until he left us alone at last in a large chamber hung with brilliant-colored silks, fitted with soft divans, and lighted by crystal lamps. We stood there several minutes, not speaking, wondering, when suddenly the curtains across the doorway parted, and a most amazing figure stood before us. It was swathed in folds of filmy white draperies, with soft, gauzy veils covering even the face and hands.
I bid you welcome to the city of Kor, Callicrates and friend of Callicrates.
I'm not Callicrates. I'm Leo Vinci, and this is my friend, Mr. Holly.
Leo Vinci. Vengeance. No matter, you will understand.
Are you?
I am she.
You must forgive us if we find it difficult to understand this. What is all this? These caves, the natives. What is Kor?
Kor is a great city that rose up and then died many thousand years ago. These are the caves of Kor. The city itself stands farther on, in a huge crater at the heart of the mountain.
Are you a descendant of Kor?
I came from another place, far away, and Kor was dead long before I found it. The natives know me as a fearsome figure in white, and they obey me.
They have never seen you?
No, Holly. Not one of them has ever seen behind these veils.
It's amazing to think that Callicrates must have been here in this same place. Over 2,000 years ago.
2,287 years ago. Callicrates died in this very chamber.
You speak as though you saw it happen.
I did see it happen. I killed him.
But you couldn't. That was over 2,000 years ago.
Yes, and at that time I had been here in Kor for more than 500 years.
Impossible.
How do you know? You haven't seen me.
But then you claim to be immortal.
Yes, as he could have been had he stepped with me into the flames of life. As you can be, my Callicrates, if you so choose.
I hope you'll forgive me, but I can't believe anything so fantastic.
Is it proof you need? Proof that I once did an evil act in anger and paid for it by waiting alone through all these centuries? Proof that my waiting is ended now? Then look upon it behind this curtain.
A mummy. A mummy like those out in the caves.
But look at the face.
Leo, it's you. That's you lying there.
That is the body of Callicrates, whom I loved, and whom I killed in anger when he refused to leave her and stay with me to become immortal. His wife Amenites fled across the mountains and later gave birth to his son, your ancestor.
Then, Leo, that clay tile has been handed down in your family for over 20 centuries.
I have paid for my sin, and I have waited, knowing that someday my Callicrates would be born to me again, would come back to Kor and find me.
It was as though I had to. I dreamed of that carved mountain before I'd ever seen it. And your name, she who must be obeyed. It struck some chord in my memory the first time I heard it.
It is your heart that must be obeyed now, my beloved. The decision is yours whether to leave me once again now that you have found me, or to walk with me into the pillar of life, to love me and to become immortal.
Yes. I feel somehow that this is the ending of something I've been moving toward all my life.
Leo.
But it isn't possible. Immortality. And how can you love someone you've never seen?
Then you shall see, my beloved. I've worn these veils for you, and for you I... Look.
Oh.
The soft veil slid off from her shoulders, and she stood revealed before us, the most beautiful woman the world has ever seen.
Will you leave me now, my Callicrates, or come with me to the flame of life?
I'll go with you anywhere. Anywhere.
We talked the night away in that chamber, Leo and I fascinated by every word that fell from those lovely lips. She talked of the hidden knowledge of ancient lands, sang softly of her thoughts in rhyme, and spoke once again the words of long-dead poets, forgotten by the world. She made us believe in her own immortality and in ours to come. And before dawn, Bilali with us, we followed her madly and joyously through the dim and dusty passage that led to the flame of life. We came to a great abyss, with a narrow ledge crossing over it like a rainbow of rock. There Bilali waited, and we three went on alone. At the sight of the awful depths beneath us, Leo and I shuddered, in spite of ourselves, and moved carefully, step by step. She never hesitated, but swayed along gaily before us like a feather borne on a breeze. Finally, we stood in a vast circular chamber, a great bubble in the earth's crust, whose walls were shining black basalt.
Ollie.
Yes?
I see there by the wall. It looks like the body of a man.
An old philosopher, my beloved, who came here many centuries ago. He sat and watched the flame and could not decide whether he should become immortal. Finally, he died.
And you? Have you never regretted becoming immortal?
I could not have waited for Callicrates, Holly, had I not been immortal. But you, Leo, perhaps you have doubts.
Immortality will not even be long enough with you. Where is the flame?
Listen. Even now it approaches. It advances and then retreats, a never-ending cycle of life. It has moved along its path through this cavern since the beginning of time.
Holly, look!
Do not fear it, beloved. See, this time I will step into the flame alone. And when it comes again, you may join me.
It's like the fire of the sun and the dust of 1,000,000 diamonds.
As the great and terrible pillar of flame approached, she threw off her veils and opened her arms to it, and the eternal fire flowed over her. It passed, and left her there, standing with her head bowed.
Are you all right? It didn't harm you?
No, my beloved. Can one find harm in the flame that created life itself? Do you believe that...
What's wrong? Tell me what's wrong.
The flame was different somehow. Now that Callicrates has returned, the curse of everlasting life is lifted.
Leo, she's aging, growing old.
No.
Oh,
no.
I do not... If I go, search for me. Search.
Merciful heavens.
Oh, no. No!
Even as Leo's hands reached out to touch her, they closed on a dry heap of soft, gray dust. I knew now that neither of us would step into the flame, and I knew we would spend our lives searching through the world for she. I seemed to hear in my mind once again words she had spoken in those glorious hours the night before. I knew that Leo was hearing them too, and that neither of us, so long as we lived, could ever forget that lovely voice.
Nay, not in Kor, but in whatever spot, in town or field, or by the insatiate sea, men brood on buried loves, or unforgot, or break themselves on some divine decree, or would o'erleap the limits of their lot. There, in the tombs and deathless, dwelleth she.
Escape, produced and directed by Norman MacDonald, tonight brought you She by H. Rider Haggard, adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, with editorial supervision by John Dunkel. Featured in tonight's cast were Barry Kroger, Larry Dobkin, Kay Brinker, Ben Wright, and Wilms Herbert. Special music by Ivan Ditmars. Next week.
You are clinging precariously to a diving, pitching longboat, lashed by mountainous seas in the center of a hurricane. And at the helm, driving you on, is a man bent on revenge and willing to kill for it.
Next week, we escape with F.R. Buckley's exciting story, Habit. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when once again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Fed up with the everyday grind? Tired out from the summer heat? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape. Escape, designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
You are clinging precariously to a diving, pitching longboat, lashed by mountainous seas in the middle of a hurricane. And at the helm, driving you on, is a man bent on revenge and willing to kill for it.
Tonight, we escape to the open sea with an ancient tramp steamer and its fighting captain, as F.R. Buckley told it in his ironic story, Habit.
Very well. The court has no more questions. Step down, please.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor.
Well, Captain Weatherfield, you've just heard the complaining witness. Have you anything to say in your own defense?
Yeah. Hit the man about a bit. No doubt of that, Your Honor. In fact, with half chance, I'd have pounded his blasted head off.
Quiet! Quiet! You'll have order in the court. Then you admit the charges, Captain Weatherfield.
That I hit him? Yeah. But I had extenuating circumstances, Your Honor.
I see. And what were they?
He laughed at my ship. At the Wakelin, Your Honor. As fine a freighter as ever steamed out of here on the Liverpool run.
I don't quite see.
He stood there on the wharf. Squint-eyed son of a landlubbered lawyer. He said my ship looked like an old woman, with her dress on backwards, her hair not combed. That's when I flattened him out.
Yes, and I still say that's what she looks like.
Order!
Why, you confounded little pipsqueak, I'll break your part.
Sit him down, Captain Weatherfield.
I will not.
Grab him, bailiff.
Let go of me, confound it, let go of me. Let go of me, I say.
Order in the court. Captain Weatherfield. Captain Weatherfield, this court finds you guilty of assault and battery as charged, and sentences you to 7 days in the New Bristol City Jail. All right, bailiff. Lock him up.
And that's the way it started, with the captain getting 7 days in the New Bristol jail. Yeah, but it went a whole lot further before it was over. It was like a bolt of chain lightning that may take a dozen strange turns or more before it finally strikes home. And, actually, of course, the Wakelin was a funny-looking old scow. She'd had 30 years in the North Atlantic with never a part being replaced so long as there was some way of patching it up. Yeah, she was a regular joke of a ship. That is, to everybody except Captain Weatherfield. Yeah, those of us who were officers aboard her had learned a long time before not to hint anything like that to him. No, she was the Queen Mary and the Normandy and his firstborn child, all rolled up into one. So you can bet your life we all kept sober faces when the captain finally came aboard at the end of the week.
Mr. Connolly?
Yes, sir.
Well, everything in order? Will we be able to sail in an hour?
Yes, sir. I've been keeping her ready for the last 4 days, just in case
That
we
will do.
might,
I'm fully aware that we're 4 days past schedule. And the reason for it will not be discussed on board. Is that clear?
Yes, Captain.
I've been badly treated in this town, Mr. Connolly. Thrown behind bars like some thieving dock rat. I don't feel good about it. And if it takes me the rest of my life, I'm going to even up the score. Do you understand that?
I think so.
You think so, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Then button up your collar and go get up a head of steam.
And so 3 days later, we were plowing through a heavy sea 580 miles out on the Atlantic. The spray was freezing in the rigging. We were flirting with the fringe of a northeast hurricane.
Blast this double-blasted, confounded wind. Mr. Connolly!
In here, Captain.
Well, How's she looking, Mr. Connolly?
Oh, not so bad. We're taking the seas in our quarter, and so far we're making only about 4 inches of water an hour.
4 inches of water an hour, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. Then we'll take a chance on it.
Take a chance on what, sir?
A distress message. Just picked it up at the wireless shack.
Oh.
Here, take a look.
Mm-hmm. The freighter Johannes out of New Bristol. Main shaft broken, auxiliaries out of commission, shipping water fast. Latitude 4630, longitude... let me see. Yeah, they're about 90 miles from us, northern to west.
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Connolly. Lay out the course.
What?
We should sight her sometime round dawn, if we hold a full speed all night.
Full speed? Dead into a hurricane? Why, the Wakeland would fall apart in 2 hours.
I doubt it. She's a good ship. Lay out the course.
Yeah, but the Johannes is right in the main shipping lane. Somebody else is bound to pick her up before morning anyway.
Mr. Connolly, we can hope not.
What do you mean, hope not?
Evidently you didn't notice her registry, Mr. Connolly. She's out of New Bristol.
Well, what of it?
That, as you may recall, is the town that threw me into jail. Gotten all the papers. Like as not, my daughters up in Maine have probably read about it by now. I'll not have them thinking their father's a man who does nothing but go around punching people in the noggin.
All right, but what's it got to do with this?
I'm going to be alongside the Johannes before anybody else is, Mr. Connolly. I'm going to rescue every man aboard her. Then I'm going to take them back to New Bristol and get a public apology out of that town. And I'll see that that gets in the papers, too.
I've never heard of anything so crazy
I
in all
don't care
my
what you've never heard of, Mr. Connolly. Lay out that course now before I get mad. Decide to punch somebody's blasted head off.
Well, the little cock of the walk made good the first part of his plan all right. In spite of a broken steam injector that had to be patched up with rigging wire, by shortly after dawn he had us hove to, half a cable length off from the Johannes. She was down by the stern and listing badly, but still afloat. The wind was howling like a banshee, and the flying spume was freezing all over our decks. There was no doubt but what the next part of our job was going to be a lot tougher than the first time.
Mr. Connolly, you got a boat crew together?
Yes, sir. There'll be 5 seamen and a third mate. I'll take charge myself.
Leave the third mate aboard. I'll take charge myself. It's my show. I'm going to run it.
All right, Captain. Whatever you say.
Well, what's holding this up? Let's get this boat over the side.
Blocks are frozen, Captain. Carpenter's trying to break it loose.
Well, he's not cracking walnuts at a tea party. Here, Chips, give me that mallet. Mr. Roberts!
Yes, sir.
You'll stay on board.
Yes, sir.
Keep an oil slick running. Waves out there. Pretty high.
Pretty high? I've never seen him any higher.
Well, I can't help it, Mr. Connolly. I've got to... There, that did it. Boat crew ready.
Ready aboard, sir.
All right there. Lower away.
For the 7 of us who went overside in the longboat, that command was the beginning of a nightmare. If things had been bad up on the Wakeland's deck, they were 100 times worse down there in the very midst of that smashing, that tumbling maelstrom of water and wind. A continuous driving spray was torn from the wave crests and froze solid on the gunwales and the boat seats and on our faces. One man bailed constantly while the others pulled away on the oars with bleeding hands. And even then, we were never far from foundering. Captain Weatherfield sat in the stern and shouted orders none of us could hear, but we could see his face, and that was enough to keep us at it. With a halo of sheet glass around his sou'wester and his gray beard turned to a frozen mass of jumbled icicles, he looked like Neptune come to life, or maybe even more like the devil himself. It took us over 2 hours before we finally hauled in against the rusty side of the battered old Johannes.
Ahoy, the deck! Aye, sir! In watching you! Hot to matter!
You'll have to jump for it. Can't use a ladder. Seas heavy?
Understood. Already here.
Wait till we come up on a swell. We'll hold as steady as we can. Stand by now. No, not yet.
Good Lord, he fell on the gun.
Blasted fool told him to wait.
He smashed in his chest. Why, it's the captain of the ship.
Then he had no business jumping first anyhow. Haul him aboard, Mr. Conley. Get him out of the way. All right. Ready on deck?
Aye, aye, sir.
All right, there. Steady. Now. Good. Stow that man aft there. On deck. Wait for the swell. Wait. Now. Get him, Connolly. I'll blast the sea. You on deck. Jump now. Wait. You men help him out there. Here comes another. Catch him. Haul him in, Connolly. Good. Back horseshoe. Stand by. Fore and aft side there. Here comes another one. Hold her steady. Keep one oar against the side there. Anybody else up there, mister?
No, sir. 6 of us. Others lost overboard last night.
All right, then. Back off the oars. You there, Polano. Get a hold of that oar.
He can't do it very well with only one arm, Captain.
What do you mean, one arm?
He broke his arm a couple of minutes ago when we bumped aside.
Then give him a bucket. At least he can bail. All right, let's go.
It was 6 hours before we finally got back aboard the Wakeling. But we did get back. And I doubt if any other man but Captain Weatherfield could have done it. True enough, he fainted across the engine room hatch once we were on board. But don't forget, he was 72 years old. He'd taken a crew of 6 out in an open boat on the high seas in the middle of a hurricane, rescued 6 more men off a sinking ship, and brought the whole 12 back alive. Well, one of them, of course, was only barely alive, and that was Captain Miller of the Johannes. He was still unconscious. I had him put in a bunk and hoped for the best. And then I turned in to grab a few hours' sleep. I guess it was sometime after midnight when the third mate called me. I got dressed, went down, woke up the captain.
Confound it, Mr. Conley. Can't a man even close his eyes aboard this ship without somebody rousing him out of his bunk?
I'm sorry, Captain. Thought you ought to know. Miller's conscious now, wants to see you. He thinks he's dying.
Dying, is it?
Yeah.
I'll see about that. Where's my pants?
Here you are, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, might be a good thing if Miller did die, according to his first mate, Larson.
Huh?
Well, Larson says they had plenty of warning of this storm, but Miller drove straight on into it. He was racing for port.
Oh, racing for port.
Yeah.
Bad business.
There'll be an inquiry on it. He'll lose his ticket when they find out.
It's also bad business, Mr. Conley, when first mates talk out of turn. Come on. Where is he?
I put him in the cabin off the wardroom. The third mate's in there with him now.
How is the ship heading?
Due south.
Due south?
Well, we're running before the wind. Can't do anything else.
I told you, Mr. Conley, to lay a course for New Bristol.
I know, but we can't do it. The main boiler's out, and we're on the auxiliaries. It may take 2 days to fix it.
Confound the luck. Risk my life to rescue a man. Tries to die on me. Now that bonehead engineer's let the main boiler break down.
That's not his fault. It should have been replaced 5 years ago.
5 years ago what, Mr. Connolly?
5 years ago, sir.
Good.
Here we are.
Oh, glad you got here, sir. I was getting worried.
Yeah, it's all right, Mr. Roberts. Here, stand back a bit and hold the light up.
Yes.
There, that's fine. Evening, Captain Miller.
Evening, Captain.
You're in some pain, I take it?
Yeah. Feels like something sharp. Sticking in my chest. Getting worse.
Something sharp, eh? No doubt the broken end of a rib poking into your lungs.
Yeah. Guess so.
There you are. Feels like there's a rib gone here.
Oh. Want to make a statement for the log.
Oh, I do. I figure you're getting ready to die, is that it?
Yeah. not much chance. Shouldn't I jump first?
No, you shouldn't have. Understand you was racing for port. Drove straight into the storm.
Yeah. I had to. It's my wife. Her first baby. Wanted to be with her.
What's he saying, sir?
His wife's thinking of having a baby, Roberts.
Oh.
Statement. Responsibility.
We'll discuss that later, Captain. That lung gets a hole punched in it. You're done for.
He's practically done for now.
You know, Mr. Connolly, saw a doctor open up a man once, take a broken rib out of him. Think I can remember fairly well how he went about it. And there ought to be some chloroform on board.
Captain Weatherfield.
You shut up, Mr. Connolly. Captain Miller, it's one chance in a million, but you've got no chance now. How about it?
Anything. Doesn't matter. Be an inquiry report. Better to die.
Well, we'll worry about that later. All right, then. Go find that chloroform, Mr. Roberts.
Yes, sir.
And bring me a bar of soap.
Yes, sir.
And get a couple of them little knives, whatever they call them, out of the medicine locker.
Yes, sir, right away.
Mr. Connolly, go wake up that first mate of his. Get him in here. We'll need a witness to Captain Miller's consent.
All right, sir.
And Mr. Connolly.
Yes, sir.
Find Chips and borrow his chest of tools. Never can tell what you'll find once you start to open a man up.
In 10 minutes, we had everything ready. Larson signed a statement, swearing that Captain Miller had agreed to it. And the third mate, with his face white as a sheet, stood at the head of the bunk, dripping chloroform onto a towel and holding it over Miller's nose and mouth. I held the light in one hand and kept the other on the patient's pulse, while Captain Weatherfield rolled up his sleeves and started in on a major operation that he'd thought he'd seen some doctor perform once.
Everything snug and proper. How's he seem to be getting along, Mr. Connolly?
I don't know. He's still breathing.
I know he's breathing, man. It's his chest I'm operating on. How's his pulse?
Pretty weak. No worse than it was.
Keep that chloroform dripping, Mr. Roberts.
Yes, sir.
Well, there's no time like the present.
Oh.
Hold that light steady, Mr. Connolly.
Yes, sir.
Steady yourself. Now, let me see. I think that doctor did it like this.
I've used up half the chloroform, Captain.
Keep it dripping, Roberts. Well now. Don't remember anything like that being in there. Let's see now.
Pulse is getting pretty weak.
Mr. Connolly, don't bother me. Got more important things here to think about. That's it. Here's the end of the rib, all right. Now, if I can just... That's all right, let it go. Don't need the knife anymore. Confound it, Connolly. Give me a little more room to work in. Cabin's small enough as it is.
Captain, his pulse has stopped.
No, it hasn't, Mr. Connolly. Now, why the devil doesn't that rib come loose when I...
It's no use, Captain. He's dead. His heart stopped beating.
Mr. Connolly, don't stand there. Try to tell me his heart stopped when I can see it beating right now. Mr. Larson.
Yes, sir.
Would you look at that tool chest behind you? See if you can find me a pair of pliers.
I doubt if there's ever been another operation like it before or since. By all rights, Captain Miller should have died 10 times over, right there on the bunk. Only he didn't. He was unconscious for 48 hours. But on the 5th day, he was sitting up on a deck chair and cussing because somebody had slung his broken rib overboard instead of saving it so he could whittle out a letter opener. We were driven 600 miles to the south before the storm blew itself out, and we got the main boiler back into operation and could lay a course for New Bristol. And 3 days away from port, Captain Weatherfield called all of us officers of the Wakeland together in the chart room, along with First Mate Larson of the Johannes.
Gentlemen, there may be some questions in your minds in regard to what this meeting is all about. No doubt you're wondering, even if you aren't asking. Am I right?
Well, yes, sir. We have been trying to guess.
Then I'll tell you, gentlemen. I called this meeting to put a stop to certain idle rumors, which I hear have been floating around.
Just what kind of rumors, Captain Weatherfield?
Them which says that Captain Miller of late ship Johannes deliberately drove head-on into a storm while racing to make port.
There's no rumor about that. It's what he was doing. As his first mate, I should know.
And I say he wasn't, Mr. Larson. The way I figure it, got caught by the storm without any warning. He gave orders for full speed to try to beat out of it. A couple of hours later, main shaft broke, left him helpless without steerage way. Could happen to anybody.
Maybe. Only it didn't. I was there, Captain Weatherfield. I know what happened. And there's 5 of my crew left to back me up.
They'll back up anything you say, Mr. Larson. You know that.
And there's nothing to talk about. When the Board of Inquiry gets through with Miller, he won't command another ship as long as he lives.
So, there's not going to be any Board of Inquiry.
Huh? Maybe that's not up to you.
Which is what we're here to decide.
I don't get it, Captain. Miller's a rat. He was the first one to jump when we come alongside. Anything that happens to him serves him right. Now, why should you stick up for him?
My personal opinion of the man has nothing to do with this, Mr. Conley. I say there'll be no Board of Inquiry because it suits my purposes that there be none.
And just what are your purposes, Captain?
I drove my ship 90 miles off her course in a hurricane, risked my life in an open boat, just for one reason, Mr. Larson. Because I knew you were registered out of New Bristol.
Ah, so that's it.
Aye, Mr. Conley, that's it. I operated on a man, saved his life just so he could stand up alongside of me, have our pictures taken for the newspapers.
I get it. So, you don't want some messy Board of Inquiry throwing scandal in the story of your noble rescue on the high sea, huh? You want to be a blasted hero.
Mr. Larson, being a hero has got nothing to do with it. But I am planning to get a public apology out of the town of New Bristol. And you, or nobody else, is going to do anything to stop me.
Yeah, well, it's too bad you haven't got the whole say about it, Captain.
And it's too bad you're so bull-headed, set on swearing away your captain's ticket, that you forced me to teach you a lesson.
And just how are you aiming to do that?
By knocking a little sense into your thick noggin, something like this.
Oh, so it's a fight you're after.
All right.
Come on, Captain. Teach me a lesson.
Show him the one you learned in Shanghai.
I'll teach you all right.
Damn it, you got it, Captain.
Get up, Mr. Larson.
I'll get up, all right.
Look out. He's got a pair of dividers.
So you tried to stab me, would you? Well, Larson, what about it?
All right, I'm through.
There going to be a Board of Inquiry?
No. I'll back up anything you say.
Good. What about the rest of you? Anything I say go?
Yes, sir.
All right, then. Get back on watch. What do you think this is, a peaceful harbor of a Sunday?
It was a clear, sunshiny day when we steamed into New Bristol Harbor and dropped anchor at the mouth of the river. Captain Weatherfield sent Miller on ashore at quarantine, insisting that his reason was not just to make sure of having a reception ready. Nonetheless, he spent an hour and a half shaving, trimming his hair, and dressing up in his best shore-going clothes. But he had a right to strut a little at that. He'd moved through a whole series of tough jobs, every one against almost impossible odds, and he'd come out on top. And all because he wanted his daughters up in Maine to know he could do something once in a while besides punch people in the noggin. It was mid-afternoon by the time we finally rowed ashore in the long boat, and a good-sized crowd had assembled on the wharf. And when we got in close, we could see Captain Miller waiting by the landing, along with a regular reception committee, all dressed up in striped pants and top hats like a bunch of foreign diplomats. And the head man of the whole layout was the same judge who'd given the captain 7 days in jail.
Easy now, Mr. Conley.
Here. I'll hold this steady, sir.
Thank you.
Here we are now. Out we go.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, up we go.
Here we are.
Well, welcome, Captain Weatherfield, on behalf of the town of New Bristol.
Well, now, it's mighty nice of you, Judge.
Not at all, Captain. We're the ones who are honored. The whole town. And we want you to know it.
Well, thank you, Judge.
Captain Miller here has given us the complete story. The rescue at sea, the daring operation that saved his life.
Here. How you feeling, Captain Miller?
A little tired right now, Captain. Been pretty busy. Arranging things, you know.
Here, of course.
You're a hero in this town, Captain Weatherfield. There's nothing too good for you. We're proud of you.
I was wondering if you'd recall a little incident where we met before, Judge, not so long ago.
A terrible mistake. I'll never forgive myself. I feel I owe you a public apology, Captain Weatherfield.
Well, now, don't believe I know just what to say, Judge.
Nothing at all to say, Captain Weatherfield. As I said before, we're the ones who are honored. The whole town of New Bristol. And all of New England, too, by Jove. Once those reporters get their stories on the wire.
Reporters, eh? Well, now, that's going to too much trouble, Judge.
Oh, not at all, Captain, not at all. They'll be wanting an interview with you, you know. We've had quite a time keeping them off this long. Well, you're a hero, man. Don't you realize that?
I only did my duty, Judge.
The New Bristol needs more men who only do their duty, Captain Weatherfield.
Mighty nice of you to say so.
When I recall the way you were treated here a few weeks ago, Captain, well, all I can do is to ask your forgiveness publicly.
I suspect that might be arranged, Judge. I'm not a man to bear a grudge.
A fact which your actions have proven, sir.
Them there fellas with the cameras, are they reporters, are they?
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed, Captain. Well, of course, they're photographers, really.
They're taking them pictures to print in the newspapers, are they?
That's right, Captain. They'll be seen by people all over the country.
Suppose we might walk over that way?
Certainly, Captain Weatherfield. Certainly. Anything you like. Won't you join us, Captain Miller?
Thanks, gentlemen. You know, I was just thinking, if they print a picture of that ship out there, nobody will believe the story.
What did you say, Captain Miller?
I said they wouldn't believe it. To look at that old mud scow, you wouldn't think she could float in a calm sea, much less...
Captain Weatherfield. Good heavens, he struck the man.
I'll teach you to call my ship a mud scow. Squint-eyed son of a five-legged salamander.
Stop, I say. Stop. Stop it. Stop it. Constable, arrest that man and lock him up. I'm filing a charge of assault and battery.
Escape, produced and directed by Norman Macdonald, tonight brought you Habit by F.R. Buckley, adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, with editorial supervision by John Dunkel. Featured in tonight's cast were John Daner as Mr. McConley and Louis Van Rooten as Captain Weatherfield, with Wilms Herbert as Captain Miller, Barry Kroger as the judge, and Bill Boucher as First Mate Larson. Special music by Ivan Ditmars. Next week,
you are making your painful way over the great India desert, alone and dying of thirst, while behind you, pursuing you, are the fanatical Kafirs, who once bowed to you as king, and now call for your life.
Next week, we escape with Rudyard Kipling's exciting story, The Man Who Would Be King. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when once again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.